In a bustling town perched on the edge of a sparkling sea, there stood a small, unassuming glass shop. Its weathered sign read Solace Glassworks, and it was owned by an elderly artisan named Elias. He was a master glassmaker, known not just for his skill, but for his uncanny ability to create pieces that seemed to capture emotions within their shimmering forms. Elias had spent a lifetime perfecting his craft, and his shop was filled with creations that drew visitors from far and wide. Delicate vases that seemed to hold sunlight, intricate figurines that appeared to dance in the light, and stained glass panels that transformed ordinary spaces into sanctuaries of color. Yet despite the beauty of his work, Elias had no apprentice to carry on his legacy. The art of glassmaking, it seemed, had lost its allure in a world increasingly focused on speed and efficiency. One day, a young boy named Finn wandered into the shop. He was no older than 10, with tousled hair, curious eyes, and hands perpetually smudged with dirt from playing in the streets. He had no intention of buying anything. He was merely seeking refuge from the midday sun. As Finn gazed at the glassworks, his eyes fell on a small figurine of a bird in flight. It was so lifelike that he could almost hear the rustle of its wings. Intrigued, he reached out to touch it but stopped short, afraid of breaking it. Elias, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, noticed the boy's hesitation. "Go on," he said with a gentle smile. "It's meant to be admired." Finn carefully picked up the figurine, marveling at its weightlessness and beauty. "How do you make something like this?" he asked, his voice filled with wonder. Elias chuckled. "Patience, fire, and a bit of magic," he replied. "Would you like to see how it's done?" From that day on, Finn began visiting the shop every afternoon. Elias showed him how to shape molten glass, how to blend colors to create stunning effects, and most importantly, how to pour his heart into his work. Finn proved to be a quick learner, but he was also impatient, often frustrated when a piece didn't turn out as he'd hoped. One evening, after yet another failed attempt, Finn threw down his tools in frustration. "I'll never be as good as you," he exclaimed. Elias placed a hand on Finn's shoulder. "Do you know the secret to creating something beautiful?" he asked. Finn shook his head, his eyes downcast. "It's not about perfection," Elias said. "It's about resilience. Every crack, every flaw is part of the story. The most beautiful pieces are the ones that have endured the fire and come out stronger." To prove his point, Elias showed Finn a vase with a fine crack running through its base. The crack had been filled with molten gold, turning a flaw into a feature. "This is called kintsugi," Elias explained. "It's a way of celebrating imperfections, of honoring the journey." Inspired by Elias's words, Finn returned to the forge with renewed determination. He began to see each mistake not as a failure but as a lesson. Over time, his work improved, and his creations began to reflect his unique style, a blend of raw energy and delicate artistry. Years passed, and Finn grew into a skilled glassmaker in his own right. Elias, now too old to work the forge, watched with pride as his young apprentice breathed new life into the shop. The townsfolk began to flock to Solace Glassworks, not just for the beauty of the pieces, but for the stories they told. Stories of perseverance, transformation, and hope. One day, as Finn was putting the finishing touches on a commission, Elias called him over. "It's time," the old man said, handing him a small key. "This is for you." The key opened a cabinet that Finn had never noticed before. Inside, he found a collection of unfinished pieces. Glassworks that Elias had started but never completed. Some were misshapen, others cracked, and a few were barely more than blobs of molten glass. "Why are you showing me these?" Finn asked, puzzled. "Because they're my legacy," Elias replied. "Each piece is a reminder that even a master makes mistakes. But those mistakes pave the way for growth. Now it's your turn to carry on the legacy. Finish these pieces, not to erase the flaws, but to honor them." Finn spent months working on the unfinished pieces, blending his own vision with Elias's original designs. When the collection was finally complete, it was displayed in the shop's window under the title, "The Glassmaker's Journey." The townsfolk were moved by the exhibit, finding inspiration in the way imperfections had been transformed into beauty. Elias passed away shortly after the exhibit opened, but his spirit lived on in the shop, in the forge, and in the heart of his apprentice. Finn continued the work, not just as a glassmaker but as a storyteller, sharing Elias's wisdom with everyone who walked through the door. Moral of the story: true beauty lies not in perfection but in resilience. Life, like glass, is fragile and often marked by cracks and flaws. But it's through those imperfections that we grow, learn, and create something truly unique. When we embrace our struggles and transform our mistakes into lessons, we find the strength to shine brighter than ever before.